Imagine a young woman's body, cold as marble, laid out for burial in the sweltering shadows of antebellum Charleston. Her heart silent, her breath gone, declared dead by science and sorrow. But as the coffin nails whisper their final hymn, her eyes flutter open, shattering the veil between life and eternity. What unholy secret did Eliza Wells carry back from the grave, not once, but twice? A tale of divine fury and human frailty that will haunt your soul. In the shadowed annals of history, where the veil between the living and the dead thins to a gossamer thread, there exist accounts that defy the cold logic of mortality. Stories whispered in the dim glow of candlelight, passed down through generations like forbidden prayers. Eliza Wells, a free black girl in the heart of 1848 Charleston, South Carolina, became the unwilling vessel for such a miracle or curse. She crossed the threshold of death not once, but twice, each return laced with a spiritual resonance that echoed biblical resurrections, yet tainted by the sins of a society built on chains and hypocrisy. Her story, buried in yellowed court affidavits, private diaries, and sealed medical ledgers for over a century, reveals not just a medical anomaly, but a divine indictment against the atrocities of slavery, the fragility of freedom, and the eternal struggle between sin and redemption. Tonight, we unearth the truth, a narrative woven with the threads of guilt, justice, and otherworldly retribution, where the grave itself recoils in horror. Picture Charleston in 1848, a city perched on the edge of the Atlantic like a jeweled dagger thrust into the heart of the South. Its streets, paved with cobblestones worn smooth by the tread of enslaved feet, wound through a labyrinth of contradictions. Grand antebellum mansions rose along the Battery, their white columns gleaming under the relentless sun, verandas draped in wisteria that bloomed in defiant beauty against the backdrop of human suffering. The harbor bustled with ships laden with cotton bales, rice sacks, and the shackled bodies of men, women, and children auctioned like livestock on the docks. The air hung heavy with the mingled scents of saltwater brine, blooming magnolias, and the acrid smoke from tobacco pipes puffed by gentlemen in top hats and frock coats. Yet beneath this veneer of southern refinement lurked a spiritual rot, a city where the Bible was wielded as both salvation and shackle, justifying the ownership of souls while preaching eternal damnation. In this cauldron of hypocrisy lived the Wells family, a beacon of precarious freedom in a sea of bondage. Marcus Wells, Eliza's father, was a free black man whose liberty had been hard-won. His own father, a master carpenter enslaved on a rice plantation, had toiled under the lash for 2 decades, saving every penny from side jobs to purchase his son's emancipation papers. Marcus inherited not just freedom, but a divine gift for woodworking that transcended racial barriers. His hands, calloused and strong, shaped mahogany and cherry into exquisite furniture, dining tables with inlaid patterns of vines symbolizing eternal life, chairs carved with motifs of angels watching over the weary. Even the most ardent white supremacists among Charleston's elite swallowed their bile to commission his pieces, for his craftsmanship whispered of a higher order, a reminder that talent bowed to no man's prejudice. Marcus's wife, Catherine, carried the blood of Haitian revolutionaries in her veins, her grandmother a free woman of color who fled the island's uprisings with tales of voodoo spirits and Catholic saints intertwined. Catherine's needlework was legendary, her embroidery adorned the gowns of plantation mistresses, threads of gold and silk weaving stories of paradise lost amid the opulence. Yet these women, draped in her artistry, would sooner spit on her than acknowledge her through the front door. Together, Marcus and Catherine scraped together enough to buy a modest 2-story home on Beaufort Street, in an enclave where free people of color huddled like refugees in their own land. Their house, with its weathered shutters and creaking floors, stood as a testament to resilience, a spiritual fortress against the encroaching darkness of laws that demanded they carry freedom papers at all times, forbade gatherings larger than 7, and barred them from testifying against whites in court. Into this fragile world came Eliza, their miracle child, born in 1832 when Catherine was on the cusp of 40. From her first breath, Eliza seemed touched by the divine, or perhaps marked by it. Her skin glowed with a deep, earthy brown, her eyes pools of midnight that held ancient wisdom. She learned to read by firelight, tracing her mother's fingers over the worn pages of the King James Bible, absorbing verses of resurrection and redemption like a sponge. "Lazarus, come forth," she would whisper, her voice a melody that chilled and comforted in equal measure. By 7, she balanced her father's ledgers with a precision that spoke of providential insight, her quick mind unraveling knots of numbers as if solving riddles from God himself. But Eliza's blessing carried a shadow, catalepsy, a affliction that mocked the boundary between life and death. Her first episode struck at age 9, during a sweltering summer Sabbath. One moment, she was reciting psalms in the family parlor, the next, her body locked rigid as a statue, her breath a faint whisper vanishing into nothingness. Catherine's heart shattered, she cradled her child, convinced the Reaper had claimed her only offspring. Neighbors flooded in, their faces etched with communal grief, but after an agonizing hour, Eliza stirred, her eyes fluttering open like wings of a resurrected dove. "Why do you weep, Mama?" she asked, innocent as Eden. Dr. Nathaniel Howell, a rare soul among Charleston's physicians willing to treat black patients, became their reluctant guardian angel. A gaunt man with wire-rimmed spectacles perched on a beak-like nose, he had trained in Philadelphia's enlightened halls, poring over European tomes on nervous disorders. In his cluttered office above the apothecary, shelves groaning with vials of laudanum and mercury, he diagnosed her. "Catalepsy," he intoned, his voice a blend of science and sympathy. "The body feigns death, suspending the soul in a limbo. Heartbeat slows to a murmur, breath to a sigh. But life clings, hidden." Catherine clutched her rosary, beads clicking like accusations. "Will it take her from us?" Dr. Howell polished his glasses, stalling against the truth. "Some endure it as a lifelong trial, a test of faith. Others awaken in the coffin, scratching at eternity." Those words planted a seed of dread in the Wells household, a spiritual thorn that festered with each episode. As Eliza blossomed into adolescence, the fits intensified, monthly, then weekly, each one a harrowing descent into the abyss. Her body would seize, muscles turning to stone, eyes rolling back to whites that gleamed like polished bone. Marcus and Catherine would hover, mirrors fogging faintly or not at all, praying over her form as if warding off demonic possession. Yet between these shadows, Eliza shone. Vibrant, with her mother's graceful features and father's unyielding spirit, she wore her hair in braids that cascaded like rivers of midnight, each twist a symbol of ancestral strength. She apprenticed in the workshop, her hands guiding chisels with a precision that evoked the Creator's touch, carving symbols of crosses and olive branches into wood that seemed to hum with life. Eliza's thirst for knowledge was insatiable. She devoured books from Dr. Howell's library, tales of saints rising from tombs, philosophical musings on the soul's immortality. It was there she met Samuel Pritchard, a tall, earnest clerk in a shipping firm, his freedom inherited from ancestors who bought it with blood and sweat. Samuel's eyes, warm as hearthfire, first caught hers in the pews of the African Methodist Episcopal Church on Calhoun Street, a sanctuary where enslaved and free alike sought solace from the whip and the word. The church's wooden beams, scarred by time, arched like protective arms, stained glass filtering light into rainbows that danced on faces uplifted and sown. Their courtship unfolded like a tentative psalm, Sunday strolls in the permitted park, where live oaks draped in Spanish moss swayed like ghostly veils. Samuel knew of her affliction, whispers traveled fast in their tight-knit world. But he saw beyond it. "My grandmother bore the falling sickness," he confided one April afternoon in 1848, the breeze carrying scents of jasmine and sea salt. They sat on a weathered bench, the moss above them whispering secrets. "She outlived storms and masters, reaching 73 winters. Afflictions are but trials, Eliza, not the measure of a soul." Her heart, guarded by fear, softened. She smiled, a radiance that pierced the gathering clouds. "Most would flee this curse." He took her hand, fingers intertwining like fate sealed. "Most chase shadows. I see the light in you." That tender moment, pregnant with promise, hung suspended like a breath before a storm. For fate, or perhaps divine providence, had other designs. The first death descended on a stifling Tuesday in late May, the sun a merciless forge beating down on Charleston. Eliza rose at dawn, the wooden floor cool against her feet, helping Catherine prepare breakfast, hominy grits steaming in iron pots, chicory coffee bitter as regret. Marcus had departed for his workshop, sawdust scent lingering like a ghost, laboring over a grand table for the Middleton clan, pillars of Southern aristocracy, their wealth soaked in the sweat of chained laborers. The morning dragged under oppressive humidity, air thick as molasses. Eliza joined her mother in the yard, hauling water from the cistern, its depths mirroring the sky's indifferent blue. Scrubbing linens on the washboard, her hands reddened, soapsuds foaming like ephemeral dreams. By midday, a vice gripped her temples, a headache pulsing like distant thunder. "Rest, child," Catherine urged, her brow furrowed with maternal instinct. "This heat devours the spirit. Eliza retreated to her chamber, a sanctuary of simplicity, a bed quilted with patches of memory, a dresser scarred by time, shelves cradling books that whispered of worlds beyond bondage. She collapsed onto the covers, fully clothed, eyes sealing shut against the pain. 2 hours later, Catherine entered with a tin cup of cistern-cooled water, the door creaking like a warning. The room felt unnaturally still, sunlight slanting through shutters in golden blades. Eliza lay rigid, limbs aligned as if sculpted for a tomb, eyes half-lidded and vacant, skin ashen as cooled ash. "Eliza?" Catherine's voice cracked, a prayer fracturing. She touched her daughter's hand, icy, unyielding. Ear to chest, silence, profound as the grave. Hand to lips, no warmth of breath. A primal scream erupted, shattering the afternoon, drawing neighbors like moths to flame. The house swelled with community, women in faded calico, elders with canes tapping urgency, Reverend Thomas, his Bible clutched like armor, diverted from a nearby visit. Murmurs rippled, "Gone to glory, the Lord called her home." Marcus burst in, tools abandoned, sawdust flecking his shirt like fallen stars. He shoved through, collapsing beside her, cradling the rigid form. His sobs tore forth, a guttural lament, echoing the cries of ancestors across oceans, a sound that imprinted on souls present, a howl blending grief with rage against an unjust God. Dr. Howell arrived swiftly, bag thudding on the floor, his face a mask of professional detachment cracking at the edges. He probed, pulse points yielding nothing, stethoscope amplifying void, candle flame unmoving pupils, needle prick drawing no flinch. Spectacles removed, he sighed, "She's crossed over my deepest sorrows." Catherine crumpled, a heap of despair. Marcus stood petrified, the world fracturing. Rituals commenced, mirrors shrouded to trap the soul, clock hands halted at 2:47 p.m., the hour of pronouncement, a frozen testament to loss. But in a hushed aside, Dr. Howell drew Marcus near, voice a conspiratorial whisper. "Her history. Catalepsy mocks death. Delay burial 48 hours. Observe. Certitude is paramount." Marcus nodded, numb, a spark of desperate hope flickering in his abyss. Word cascaded through the free black networks, a ripple of shared sorrow. Visitors streamed, Samuel, vigil by her side, tears carving paths on his cheeks, clutching her hand as if anchoring her spirit. Church sisters bore casseroles scented with time and sorrow, men offered hammers for the coffin. Eliza lay in the parlor, clad in her finest blue gown, cotton soft as a sigh, hands crossed over a Bible, candles flickering shadows that danced like restless ghosts. Dr. Howell returned thrice that day, each examination a ritual of futility, no pulse, no breath, rigidity unyielding. By day 2, a subtle decay scented the air, sweet sickly, a harbinger. "I erred in hope," he confessed to Marcus under lamplight. "She's truly departed." That night, Marcus retreated to his workshop, tools trembling as he shaped cherrywood into a coffin. Each stroke a penance, brass handles gleaming like false promises. Beautiful, eternal, a father's final absolution. The funeral loomed Thursday, in the church's embrace, burial in the segregated plot where free souls rested apart from the enslaved. Wednesday Eve, Catherine claimed solitude with her daughter. House emptied, Marcus at arrangements, she perched beside the body, hand in hand, cold flesh against warm. Prayers poured forth, a torrent of pleas, psalms recited in hoarse whispers, hymns quavering. Stories spilled, Eliza's first steps, laughter like bells, scoldings regretted. "Forgive me, Lord," she begged, "for every sin that led to this. Restore her, as you did Lazarus. Let divine justice prevail over this cruel world." As midnight approached, the room grew heavier, candles guttering, shadows lengthening like accusatory fingers. Catherine's voice faltered. Exhaustion claiming her, but her grip tightened, a mother's unyielding bond against the void. Little did she know, the grave's grip was loosening, and Eliza's spirit, wandering the liminal realms, carried back whispers of retribution for a society's sins. The resurrection brewing was no mere medical revival, it was a spiritual thunderclap, exposing the hypocrisies of Charleston, where freedom was illusion and death a temporary reprieve from divine judgment. Yet, as the clock ticked toward dawn, an unnatural chill seeped in, despite the humidity. The air thickened, charged with an electric hum, as if the heavens themselves held breath. Eliza's form, so still, harbored a secret pulse, a faint rhythm echoing biblical promises, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." What visions had she glimpsed in that suspended state? Ghosts of enslaved forebears, chains rattling in eternal protest? Angels with swords of fire, demanding reckoning? Her return would not be gentle, it would shatter illusions, force confrontations with guilt ingrained in the city's stones. In expanding this tale, we delve deeper into the psychological torment the Wells faith tested like jobs, each episode a crucifixion of hope. Marcus, in his workshop prayers, questioned God's plan: why afflict the innocent in a land of oppressors? Catherine's Haitian roots infused her vigils with syncretic rituals, candles arranged in crosses, herbs burned for protection against malevolent spirits. Eliza, in lucid moments, confided dreams during fits, vast voids where voices whispered of redemption, of uprisings foretold, linking her personal resurrection to a collective awakening. Samuel's devotion added layers of romantic tragedy. His letters, hidden in archives, reveal poems likening Eliza to Mary Magdalene, risen to witness truth. The community's response mirrored biblical multitudes, some saw miracle, others witchcraft, fueling rumors that rippled to white quarters, where elites feared any sign of divine favor on the oppressed. Historically, 1848 Charleston simmered with tension. The Mexican-American War's end brought debates on slavery's expansion, abolitionist pamphlets smuggled in. Eliza's case, documented in faded medical journals, paralleled global catalepsy accounts, posed tales of premature burial echoing real fears, bells tied to coffins in graveyards. Spiritually, her story symbolizes divine intervention, a black girl's defiance of death as metaphor for resilience against systemic sin. Each death a descent into hellish limbo, mirroring Christ's harrowing, her returns at Easter dawn, challenging the notion that some lives are disposable. As Catherine prayed on, unaware, the narrative builds suspense, the body's subtle shifts unnoticed in grief's fog. A finger twitch? A sigh mistaken for wind? The emotional immersion deepens, viewers feel the humidities cling, hear the creak of floorboards, taste salt of tears. This is no mere retelling, it's a cinematic odyssey, pacing rhythmic as a heartbeat, short breaths of dread, pauses for reflection, crescendos of revelation. And so, the stage sets for the impossible, life stirring in death's embrace, a chilling prelude to twice. Defied mortality, carrying undertones of haunting legacy. What secret did Eliza bear from beyond? A message of justice, or a warning of wrath to come? The shadows lengthen, inviting you deeper into this spiritually charged enigma. The witching hour approached in the Wells' modest home on Beaufane Street, where the air hung thick with the residue of grief and guttering candle wax. Catherine Wells, her body a vessel of unyielding sorrow, slumped in the wooden chair beside her daughter's laid-out form. Her fingers, roughened from years of needlework, remained entwined with Eliza's, cold, unyielding as the clay from which man was formed. Exhaustion, that merciless thief, finally claimed her, her head dipped forward, eyelids sealing shut against the torment. In that fragile slumber, dreams swirled visions of Haitian spirits her grandmother had invoked, ancestral guardians wrestling with the Christian God for her child's soul. But reality intruded with a sound that pierced the veil, a ragged, desperate gasp, like a drowning soul breaching the surface of Styx. Catherine jolted awake, disoriented in the dim glow of the few remaining candles, their flames dancing shadows across the walls like restless phantoms. She dismissed it as a cruel echo of her subconscious, a phantom born of despair. Then it came again, a guttural inhalation, raw and insistent. Her gaze snapped to Eliza. The girl's chest, still as a tomb for 3 interminable days, now heaved erratically, rising and falling with the frenzy of rebirth. Those eyes, once glazed and vacant as a doll's, sharpened into focus, pupils contracting against the low light. Fingers that had mimicked rigor mortis twitched, life surging through veins thought forever stilled. "Mama!" The word emerged as a parched croak, a voice from the crypt, dry as desert bones. Catherine's scream erupted not from terror, but from a seismic rupture in her reality, a primal wail that echoed the biblical lamentations of Rachel weeping for her children. She recoiled, chair scraping against the floorboards, her mind fracturing under the impossibility. Eliza, the child she had birthed in miracle, and now mourned in agony, was stirring. Slowly, with the stiffness of a marionette cut from its strings, she pushed herself upright, movements halting and pained, as if wrestling free from invisible chains. Breath rasped in her throat, color blooming faintly on ashen cheeks. "Mama, what's wrong?" Confusion laced her tone, laced with a child's fear. "Why are you screaming?" Why am I here? Her gaze swept downward, taking in the blue burial gown, the encircling candles flickering like accusatory eyes. The front room, what happened? Words failed Catherine. She stood frozen, a statue of maternal devastation, her rosary beads digging into her palm like thorns of the crown. The front door slammed open with the force of divine intervention. Marcus, alerted by the scream from his errands at the church, burst in, his boots thudding on the threshold. Sawdust from his workshop still clung to his trousers, a mundane reminder of life interrupted. He halted abruptly, frame silhouetted against the night, eyes widening in a blend of awe and horror that mirrored the apostles at Lazarus's tomb. Eliza. The name escaped as a breath, barely audible, laden with the weight of resurrection. Papa. She turned toward him, wincing as if the motion tore at invisible wounds, hand pressing to her chest where her heart thundered anew. Papa, please, what's happening? Everyone looks like they've seen a ghost. I feel wrong. Marcus shattered his paralysis first, crossing the room in strides that echoed like thunderclaps. He enveloped her in his arms, crushing her fragile form against his chest, his body quaking with sobs that rumbled from deep within, an earthquake of emotion. Catherine, spurred by his movement, joined the embrace, a trinity reunited, tears mingling in a torrent of joy laced with dread. Were these tears of redemption, a family's sins washed away? Or terror at the divine forces at play, a glimpse of Judgment Day in their humble parlor? The commotion summoned the neighborhood like a clarion call from heaven or hell. Mrs. Foster, the elderly widow next door, was first through the door, her shawl askew, face pale in the candlelight. Upon beholding Eliza alive, animate, her voice cutting through the haze, she crumpled, fainting in a heap of faded calico, her collapse a symbol of fragile human faith buckling under miracle's weight. Others poured in, men with lanterns swinging shadows, women clutching Bibles, children peeking wide-eyed. The small house transformed into a maelstrom, screams piercing the air like banshee wails, prayers rising in fervent tongues, some fleeing into the night, convinced a demon had donned Eliza's skin, a succubus risen to tempt the faithful. Amid the pandemonium, a young boy was dispatched for Dr. Howell, his feet pounding the cobblestones under the moon's judgmental gaze. The doctor arrived breathless, shirt haphazardly buttoned, medical bag swinging like a pendulum of science against the supernatural. He shoved through the throng, his wire-rimmed spectacles fogging from exertion, and froze at the sight. Impossible. He murmured, voice a thread of disbelief, echoing the doubting Thomas. Yet there she sat, on the table's edge, distress etching her features, undeniably vital. Dr. Howell, please. Eliza's voice strengthened, a melody reclaiming its timbre. Tell me, why this madness? What's afflicted me? He approached with the caution of one nearing a holy relic or a volatile explosive. Wrist grasped, he sought her pulse, strong, racing like a freed stallion. Stethoscope to chest, a heartbeat thundering, defiant. Candle to eyes, pupils responsive, alive with inner light. Eliza, he intoned, measured as a confessor, recall your last memory. Frown creasing her brow, she delved inward. A headache, pounding like forge hammers. Mama bid me rest. I lay in my room, then nothingness. Her expression darkened. Shadows playing across her face. But dreams, oppressive, like chains in a void. Immobile, voiceless, yet aware. Voices echoed, Mama's sobs, Papa's grief, Samuel's whispers. I yearned to assure them, but my flesh betrayed me. Trapped in silence, like Jonah in the whale. Her eyes, white as saucers, met his. How long, doctor? A nap? Gentleness masked his tremor. Not sleep, child. Death. 3 days you've lain thus, no pulse, no breath, rigid and cold. Decay's whisper begun. I pronounced it, signed the certificate. Your funeral dawns tomorrow. Silence descended, profound as the grave she had escaped. Eliza scanned the room, candles symbolizing vigil, gown a shroud, faces a mosaic of wonder and dread. Truth dawned in her parents' eyes, etched in tear tracks. I died? Voice small, echoing Eve's awakening to sin. Dead, he affirmed, and returned. A miracle defying medicine. The revelation ignited Charleston like brimstone on tinder. By first light, a multitude besieged the house, free blacks in hushed awe, enslaved slipping chains for a glimpse of hope, whites drawn by morbid fascination. Whispers of Lazarus in skirts, God's finger stirring the pot. Some knelt in faith, seeing divine favor on the oppressed, others brandished crosses, fearing satanic mockery. Dr. Howell, forsaking rest, chronicled the enigma, vital signs robust, reflexes sharp, memory intact save the void. Stiffness lingered, weakness a shadow, but she embodied health, a phoenix from ashes. Colleagues must know, he urged Marcus at sunrise, quill poised. This upends death's definition, catalepsy's veil. Marcus's resolve hardened like forged iron. No. No journals, no spectacle. Surprise flickered in Howell's eyes. But science. They'll cage her like a curiosity, probe her soul. Voice dropping to a whisper, laden with ancestral caution, or worse, brand her witch, demon-possessed. In this city of chains, fear breeds lynching ropes. Howell acquiesced, knowing the South's spiritual schizophrenia, Bibles thumped to justify slavery, yet superstitions festered like open wounds. They forged a facade, a revised report deeming it profound catalepsy, mimicking death's embrace. My error, Howell penned, haste in pronouncement. No supernatural taint, just rare medicine. But truth, like light, seeped through cracks. Days birthed pilgrims, the afflicted seeking her touch, convinced of healing grace, zealots decrying sorcery, verses hurled like stones. The Wells clung to routine, Marcus shaping wood into symbols of endurance, Catherine's needle threading redemption's patterns. Eliza, frail yet fierce, resumed chores, her hands trembling on broom or loom. Samuel Pritchard remained steadfast, a rock in turbulent seas. Daily visits in the parlor, discourse mundane, harbor gulls wheeling like lost souls, weather's caprice mirroring fate. Cursed, she queried one June afternoon on the piazza, humidity cloaking them like guilt. No, he asserted, hand clasping hers. Afflicted, perhaps, but you. Yet change shadowed them, stares like daggers, children fleeing as from plague, friends averting paths. The Reverend barred her from church, disturbance to the flock, his edict a betrayal of gospel mercy. For 6 weeks, normalcy crept back, tentative as dawn. Crowds thinned, gossip dulled to murmurs. Eliza's fits waned, Howell mused a reset of nerves, a divine recalibration. Commissions flowed, Marcus crafting opulent furnishings for a Beaufort planter, wealth tainted by slave labor yet sustaining their freedom. Catherine's clients returned, whispers hushed. Samuel sought betrothal, Marcus, after solemn counsel, blessed it. A autumn wedding planned, simple as Nazareth's unions. Hope flickered, nightmare receding. Then, July's humid grip tightened. In the bustling market, amid fishmongers' cries and produce's earthy scents, Eliza accompanied Catherine. Crowds pressed, bodies slick with sweat, air redolent of decay and life intertwined. Tomatoes inspected, red as blood atonement, then rigidity seized her. Eyes rolled heavenward, body locking, collapsing. Catherine caught her, scream rending the din. But anomaly struck, skin graying instantly, lips blue as drowned sinners. No mere fit, this echoed true death's pallor, a second descent into abyss. Panic surged through the market like a biblical plague. Vendors abandoned stalls, slaves and free alike scattering, crosses clutched. Catherine cradled her, wailing prayers to saints and spirits. Not again, Lord. Spare her this cross. Messengers flew for Marcus and Howell, the city holding breath. Eliza's form, limp in the dust, symbolized the South's fragile liberty, ever teetering on annihilation's edge. Spiritually, this recurrence thundered divine discontent. Was Eliza a prophetess, her resurrections indicting slavery's abomination? Biblical parallels abounded, like Christ, dying twice, once for sin, again for revelation. Her visions in limbo whispered of judgment, chains rattling in eternal darkness, masters facing fiery reckoning. The community's fracture mirrored societal sins, faith versus fear, redemption versus retribution. Cinematically, the scene unfolds, market chaos in slow motion, colors vivid, red tomatoes spilling like blood, blue lips stark against gray skin. Sensory assault, heat suppression, sweat salt, cries cacophony. Emotional depth, Catherine's despair, a mother's Golgotha, onlookers' awe, humanity's mirror. As help converged, questions loomed, would she return again, bearing graver messages? Or claim her forever, a soul too pure for this tainted world? The legacy haunted Charleston's elite, complicit in bondage, trembled at omens of upheaval. Eliza's story. Rooted in 1848's tensions, abolitionist winds stirring, war's echoes, became parable, death defied as metaphor for unbreakable spirit. In expansion, delve psychology, Eliza's post-return isolation, guilt at family's burden, dreams plaguing nights, visions of enslaved kin calling for justice. Samuel's loyalty tested, societal pressure mounting. Howell's internal war, science versus soul, documenting in secret journals. Historical grounding, catalepsy cases in medical annals, premature burials feared, bells in coffins. Spiritual chill, each death a harrowing, mirroring descent into hell, return and ascension with prophetic weight. Pacing rhythms narration, short gasps of action, pauses for reflection, building dread. Empathy swells for Eliza, innocent vessel in divine drama. Curiosity hooks, what secrets from second grave? Reflection prompts, sin's cost, redemption's path. Thus, the saga deepens, shadows lengthening toward inevitable confrontation with mortality's mystery and society's shame. The bustling Charleston market, a microcosm of the city's seething underbelly, pulsed with the raw energy of commerce and captivity. Stalls groaned under the weight of sun-ripened produce, tomatoes bursting red as fresh wounds, fish glistening silver like treacherous coins, and the air thickened with the mingled odors of brine, sweat, and overripe fruit fermenting in the July swelter. Vendors hawked their wares in rhythmic chants, their voices a cacophony blending with the distant clang of harbor bells and the muffled sobs of enslaved workers hauling crates under the lash's shadow. Catherine Wells, her basket heavy with the day's necessities, navigated this labyrinth with Eliza at her side, their steps measured against the ever-present threat of scrutiny from white overseers patrolling like vultures. Eliza, still fragile from her first brush with the grave, examined a cluster of tomatoes, her fingers tracing their skins as if seeking life's pulse in the mundane. The heat pressed down like a judgmental hand from above, humidity cloaking her skin in a sheen that mirrored the spiritual sweat of a city steeped in hypocrisy. Then, without prelude, the affliction struck, a divine interruption, perhaps, or a curse manifesting. Her body seized, muscles locking into an unyielding rigor, eyes rolling back to reveal white stark as judgment scrolls. She teetered, collapsing like a felled idol, Catherine lunging to cradle her before the dirt claimed her first. Catherine's ear pressed desperately to Eliza's chest, the fabric of her dress rough against her cheek. Silence greeted her, a void profound as the biblical abyss, no heartbeat thundering like God's wrath, no breath whispering like the Holy Spirit's sigh. No, Catherine murmured, her voice a fractured prayer rising in pitch. No, merciful Lord, not this trial again. Spare us this cross, I beg you. Her words dissolved into pleas, hands clutching Eliza's form as if to anchor her soul from drifting into eternal judgment. The market erupted into bedlam, a reflection of humanity's chaotic soul when confronted with the supernatural. Onlookers surged forward, some with hands extended in futile aid, calloused palms of laborers, delicate gloves of matrons, others gawking with eyes wide as sinners at the gates of hell. Whispers slithered through the crowd like serpents, the resurrection girl, fallen again. Vendors abandoned their posts, crates toppling in disarray, fruits rolling underfoot like scattered offerings to forgotten gods. A young errand boy bolted for Dr. Howell's office, feet pounding cobblestones slick with market refuse, another dashed to Marcus's workshop, the sawdust-scented sanctuary where he wrestled wood into forms of redemption. Dr. Howell materialized swiftly, his lean frame slicing through the throng, medical bag swinging like a pendulum marking fate's inexorable swing. Kneeling in the dust, his wire-rimmed spectacles glinting under the sun's harsh glare, he conducted his ritual with grim efficiency, fingers probing for pulse at wrist and neck, stethoscope amplifying the silence, needle pricks yielding no flinch. His face, etched with scholarly furrows, darkened like storm clouds gathering over Sinai. Rising, he met Catherine's gaze, his expression a silent dirge, no words needed to convey the verdict of mortality. No! Catherine's denial crescendoed into hysteria, her body rocking Eliza's as if to summon life through sheer will. You erred before, doctor. She'll stir, as Lazarus did, called forth by divine mercy. She always returns. Her screams rent the air, a maternal lament echoing the cries of Mary at the foot of the cross, hands clawing at her daughter's gown in desperate supplication. Marcus arrived in a whirlwind of paternal anguish, his burly form shoving through, sawdust flecking his shirt like remnants of creation unfinished. He pried Catherine away gently yet firmly, her nails leaving crescents on his arms, allowing Howell to persist. But the examination yielded naught but confirmation. Eliza Wells had crossed the threshold once more, her body a vessel emptied of spirit, cold as the clay awaiting the potter's hand. This second death ignited not mere sorrow, but a spiritual conflagration. The crowd's murmurs swelled into accusations, fear-twisting faces into masks of judgment. Unnatural, one voice hissed, laced with the venom of superstition. Cursed by the Almighty for defying His order. Another intoned, she mocked death once, now divine retribution claims her, a warning to us all in this den of iniquity. The air crackled with biblical undertones, whispers of witches and demons mingling with the scent of fierce sweat, as if the city's sins, slavery's chains, elite hypocrisy had summoned this omen. Dr. Howell commanded Eliza's transport home, her form borne on a makeshift litter through streets that now seemed haunted by her legacy. In the Wells parlor, once a haven of familial warmth, he dissected the mystery with renewed vigor, probing for toxins that might mimic death's embrace, scanning for bruises betraying foul play. Nothing surfaced, no earthly explanation for this repeated descent. Yet, scarred by his prior error, he vowed vigilance, a physician turned sentinel against the grave's deceit. For 12 interminable hours, he guarded her, the clock's ticks a metronome of dread. Every half hour, tests assaulted her stillness, needles piercing skin for reflex, flames dancing near flesh for reaction, shouts echoing in her ears like prophetic calls, compressions on her chest mimicking the Creator's breath into Adam. The room, dimmed by drawn shutters, filled with the acrid tang of medicinal vials and the faint, encroaching odor of decay, a sensory harbinger of true finality. By midnight's toll, defeat bowed him. With trembling quill, he inscribed the death certificate, sealing her fate anew. The funeral loomed Saturday, expedited to thwart further miracles or horrors. No lingering vigil this time, burial swift as justice in a flawed world. Yet Charleston roiled in spiritual turmoil, Eliza's tale transcending communities, infiltrating white salons where crystal chandeliers cast judgmental light, churches where sermons thundered on resurrection's perils, taverns where ale-loosened tongues spun yarns of devilry. Newspapers sensationalized, headlines screaming the twice-dead girl, miracle or malediction, distorting facts into gothic fables, fueling debates on catalepsy as suspended judgment, death as divine probation. Religious factions clashed like Old Testament prophets, some hailed it as God's finger stirring the waters of Bethesda, others decried demonic reanimation, a perversion of Christ's singular triumph. The mayor's edict, printed on broadsheets fluttering like fallen leaves, urged rationality, a medical oddity inflated by folly, but it rang hollow against the spiritual quake. For the Wells, grief compounded like interest on sin's debt. Having mourned once, tasted redemption's fleeting joy, now they plunged deeper into abyss, Catherine's prayers a ceaseless litany, Marcus's hands idle on tools that once symbolized creation. Samuel, soul tethered to Eliza, kept vigil by her bier or whispers pouring forth like confessions, return, my love, defy the void again. I'll shield you from whispers, from fears, your resurrection my creed. But silence mocked him, her form rigid, decay's perfume a cruel incense. Friday waned, Howell's visits confirming stasis, no flicker of life in the candlelit gloom. Saturday dawned, the African Methodist Episcopal Church swollen with mourners and morbid spectators, their breaths heavy with anticipation. The Reverend, reluctantly presiding, wove a sermon on submission to divine mysteries echoing Job's trials, warning against probing God's veil. The cherrywood coffin, Marcus's masterpiece of paternal love, gleamed under shafts of stained glass light, borne by pallbearers including Marcus, his knees quaking like Peter's denial. The cemetery, a segregated plot behind the church, whispered with magnolia petals falling like manna or accusations. The grave yawned beneath a tree's shade, earth fresh turned, redolent of loam and finality. Catherine had selected it for its peace, a ironic sanctuary. As the coffin descended on ropes creaking like straining faith, the Reverend intoned ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Mourners filed by, flowers cascading into the pit, roses red as redemption's blood, lilies white as purity lost. Then, from the depths, a thump muffled, insistent, like a heart reborn in defiance. The assembly petrified, breaths held as in the tomb's hush before Christ's emergence. Another thud, rhythmic as pounding conscience. Then, a voice raw, piercing, let me out. Mercy, I suffocate. Release me from this hell. Paralysis gripped them, the impossible a thunderbolt from Jehovah. Samuel shattered the stasis, leaping into the grave, boots thudding on the coffin lid. His hands scrabbled at nails, screams erupting, tools. Aid me, for God's sake. Marcus and comrades followed, dirt cascading like sins unearthed. A crowbar fetched, the crowd surged, prayers clashing with cries, feints rippling like dominoes of doubt. The lid wrenched open with a splintering groan, revealing Eliza alive, eyes ablaze with terror's fire, hands bloodied from frantic assault, chest heaving in gasps that mocked her prior stillness. Samuel hauled her free, lifting her to earth's embrace, where she crumpled, sobs racking her frame like exorcised demons fleeing. Pandemonium reigned, screams echoing biblical wails, knees buckling in worship or dread, flights into the underbrush as from apocalyptic signs. Dr. Howell forged through, his examination cemetery side, pulse racing like salvation's haste, breath ragged, awareness sharp. How long? Eliza gasped, clinging to Samuel like a lifeline from perdition. 2 days, he stammered. Dead, again. Her scream rent the heavens, a primal accusation against fate's cruelty. The saga's horror peaked, a chilling crescendo inviting viewers to share, like, subscribe, unveiling the abyss's depths together. Aftermath cascaded like divine floodwaters, Eliza's dual resurrections flooding beyond Charleston, newspapers from northern bastions like New York and Boston devouring the tale. Some framed it medically, a curiosity probing death's frontier, others spiritually, evidence of God's grace or Satan's snare. The Wells home became a besieged fortress, crowds encamping like pilgrims at a shrine or inquisitors at a stake. Guards posted by authorities stemmed the tide, but demands persisted, touches for healing, exorcisms for purification. Clerical schisms deepened, pulpits thundered miracles affirming faith, others abomination defying natural order, calls for ecclesiastical trials to discern holy from profane. Physicians bombarded Howell with missives, theories ranging from incompetence to fraud, yet he stood firm, his reports chronicling the inexplicable, rejected by journals fearing credibility's crucifixion. Delving archives, Howell unearthed precedents, European apparent deaths, catalepsy veiling vitality, leading to accusations of witchcraft, executions mirroring Salem's frenzy. Isolation or poverty claimed survivors, their lives parables of societal sin. He theorized Eliza's case amplified heat, stress fueling profound suspension, decay's signs a deceptive shroud. For Eliza, trauma etched eternal, limbo's paralysis, awareness trapped in flesh tomb, voices of loved ones like echoes in Sheol. Coffins confines, wood's grain under nails, air thinning to poison, nightmares replayed, screens shattering nights. Samuel, her guardian angel, soothed in the well's embrace, vows a bulwark against encroaching shadows. Yet safety eluded her, she sensed death's patient stalk, a reaper biding time. In this, her story symbolized broader retribution, a black woman's defiance mirroring calls for abolition, her resurrection's omens of slavery's downfall, divine justice looming over Charleston's guilty spires. Cinematically, the burial unfolds, earth clods tumbling, crowbar's metallic bite, Eliza's bloodied emergence in slow reveal. Sensory, decay's cloy, screams echo, dirt's grit. Emotional, terror's grip, joy's fragile bloom. Spiritual chill, each revival of indictment, guilt's weight on oppressors, redemption's path thorny. Historically anchored in 1848's ferment abolitionist tracks, war scars, her tale weaves psychological depth, post-traumatic visions of chained souls demanding freedom, communities fracture reflecting moral decay. Pacing pulses, dreads build, revelations burst, reflections pause. Empathy for Eliza surges, a vessel of divine drama, curiosity on her visions, reflection on sin's legacy. The shadows of uncertainty lingered in the Pritchard household like unexorcised spirits, even as months blurred into a tentative peace. Eliza, her resilience forged in the fires of repeated resurrections, could not escape the gnawing dread that coiled in her chest like a serpent from Eden. During one of Dr. Howell's discreet visits, his carriage pulling up under cover of dusk to avoid prying eyes, she confronted him in the dimly lit parlor, the air heavy with the scent of chamomile tea and unspoken fears. "What if the darkness claims me again, doctor?" Her voice trembled, a fragile thread in the tapestry of her survival. "What if I slip away, buried deep, my screams swallowed by earth? Alone, forever trapped, pounding against unyielding wood while the world above forgets." Dr. Howell, his face etched deeper with lines of intellectual torment and compassionate exhaustion, offered no platitudes.
His mind, steeped in European medical lore, wrestled with the same abyss.
Silence hung between them, thick as the humidity that cloaked Charleston.
Finally, he spoke, his tone measured yet laced with grim necessity.
In the old world, they've devised safeguards against such horrors, safety coffins. He described them vividly, ingenious contraptions with bells tethered to strings descending into the tomb, or flags poised to unfurl at the slightest tug from a revived hand. A signal from the grave, piercing the veil to summon the living. Marcus, overhearing from the doorway, recoiled as if struck by divine lightning.
"You're speaking of crafting her tomb anew. Preparing for another descent into hell."
His voice thundered, a father's rage against fate's cruelty. Dr. Howell met his gaze steadily. "Preparing for possibility, Marcus. Her history demands prudence. We cannot gamble with her soul's suspension." The conversation descended into a chamber of horrors, words laced with biblical echoes of Lazarus's plea and the rich man's torment in flames. Reluctantly, Marcus acquiesced, his carpenter's hands, once creators of beauty, now shaping a modified coffin in his workshop. Cherrywood gleamed mockingly, a bell mounted atop, string coiled like a lifeline to the living world. It stood there, a spectral sentinel, whispering reminders of fragility in a society where freedom for people of color hung by threads is tenuous.
Yet, as weeks unfurled into months, providence or physiology granted reprieve. Eliza's catalepsy vanished, episodes ceasing like storms yielding to calm seas.
Color bloomed in her cheeks, vitality surged through her veins, her laughter echoing once more in the home she shared with Samuel. Hope, that elusive dove, nested in her heart. Perhaps the trials had purged the affliction, a divine crucible refining her spirit.
Samuel, his love unyielding as the oaks draped in resurrection fern, proposed anew under a canopy of stars one balmy evening.
This time, Eliza's acceptance was immediate, her eyes shining with tears of joy rather than dread. Their wedding unfolded in intimate sanctity within the Wells home, vows exchanged by lamplight, surrounded only by family and trusted souls. No church dared host the resurrection bride, her aura too charged with mystery, too fraught with whispers of witchcraft or divine favor. But sanctity needed no steeple, their union, blessed by Reverend Thomas in hushed tones, radiated a quiet holiness, symbols of enduring love amid societal sin. They settled into a modest house nearby, its walls soon filled with the rhythms of partnership.
Samuel's
promotion in the shipping office brought prosperity, his integrity a beacon in a corrupt harbor. Eliza, her intellect sharpened by adversity, managed ledgers and letters, her precise hand turning commerce into art. For nearly a year, bliss reigned, a fragile Eden reclaimed. Whispers of scandal faded, supplanted by Charleston's endless cycle of gossip, slave auctions, political intrigues, yellow fever scares. Dr. Howell's cautious paper on catalepsy appeared in an obscure journal, anonymized yet recognizable to insiders, sparking faint ripples in medical circles abroad. Then, in spring 1850, new life stirred within Eliza, a child conceived in hope's embrace. Joy illuminated their home, yet shadows lurked. Pregnancy ravaged her, nausea waves crashing like Atlantic storms, exhaustion weighing her limbs like chains, dizzy spells evoking faint echoes of past voids. Dr. Howell monitored vigilantly, his instruments probing for triggers, fearing the strain might summon the reaper anew. But stability held, months swelled her form, discomfort tempered by anticipation. Samuel doted with reverent tenderness, cravings fulfilled under moonlit errands, evenings spent reading psalms or abolitionist tracts smuggled from the north, feet massaged in basins of cooled water scented with magnolia. Marcus crafted a cradle from rich walnut, carvings of blooming vines symbolizing life's tenacity and birds in flight evoking souls ascending.
Catherine's needle danced, birthing garments tiny and exquisite, each stitch a prayer for generational redemption. As autumn's golden hues painted the city, excitement eclipsed fear. Eliza dreamed aloud of names, nurturing, a legacy unmarred by her trials. The due date loomed in late September, a promise of renewal. September 23, 1850, dawned with labor's fierce grip. Contractions built like thunderheads, pain a crucible mirroring her resurrections. Dr. Howell and midwife Mrs. Patterson attended in the bedchamber, air thick with linseed oil lamps and the metallic tang of effort. Through night into day, Eliza endured, sweat beading like baptismal waters, cries echoing maternal sacrifice.
In late afternoon slanting light, victory, a daughter emerged, lusty wails proclaiming life's triumph, small yet robust. Eliza cradled her, Grace, named for unmerited favor, a miracle bundled in flesh.
Tears carved paths on her face, joy profound as divine revelation.
Samuel, hand trembling on her shoulder, gazed in awe. Family converged, Catherine's sobs of grandmotherly rapture, Marcus's silent prayers of thanksgiving. Dr. Howell's examination, both thriving, pulses strong as covenant promises.
2 hours of paradise, nursing's intimate bond, passes around the room, laughter mingling with infant coos. Then, dissonance, a dizziness swirling like limbo's fog.
I feel, strange, Eliza slurred, eyes rolling to whites, body rigidifying as stone. Grace slipped from nerveless arms, Samuel caught her instinctively, heart fracturing. Dr. Howell surged forward, stethoscope confirming the familiar void, no heartbeat's drum, no breath's whisper. Third death, but wisdom-tempered response. No pronouncement, he commanded, voice steel.
To bed, fetch my advanced kit.
No preparations, no despair's rituals. For 48 hours, he mounted guard, enhanced tools at hand, amplified stethoscope discerning faintest murmurs, thermometer tracing corporeal chill, breath detector seeking size invisible.
The house transformed into Vigil's cathedral, silence broken by Grace's cries, clock's inexorable ticks. Like judgment's countdown.
Body exhibited death's insignia, pallor gray as ash, coldness seeping, rigidity unyielding.
Family encircled, Marcus and Catherine in prayer marathons, Samuel pacing with babe, torn between paternal ecstasy and widower's grief. 24 hours, stasis. 36, unwavering. 48, hope flickered low.
Perhaps eternal this time, Catherine whispered, voice hollow as a tomb. Dr. Howell, eyes bloodshot, wavered inwardly, prior revivals capped at days.
50, 52. 54 hours.
Then, at 56, a gasp, fragile as dawn's first light.
Stethoscope captured flutter, irregular yet insistent, heartbeat resurrecting.
Chest rose shallowly, deepening to life's rhythm.
Eyes opened, seeking. Grace.
First utterance, maternal cord severing death's claim.
Samuel rushed in, infant proffered. Eliza's arms, trembling, enveloped her.
I heard her cries, in the darkness.
Pulling me back, like God's voice to Lazarus. I couldn't abandon her, or you. Tears sanctified the reunion, love's force defying entropy. Examination, vitality restored, save exhaustion's veil.
Third resurrection, private, profound.
Secrecy cloaked it, lessons from prior spectacles heeded. No announcements, no intrusions. Dr. Howell archived details privately, correspondences anonymized, catalepsy studies deepened without naming his muse. Recovery languid, weeks of weakness, then strength's return.
Motherhood became balm, Grace's gurgles exorcising nightmares, purpose anchoring against trauma's tides.
Episodes ceased permanently, Howell hypothesized birth's physiological shift, a cure veiled in mystery, perhaps divine healing, maternal transformation echoing Mary's fiat. Life quieted, avoidance of spotlight, grace raised in innocence. Truth shared in maturity, a fable of ancestral fortitude. Marcus thrived till 1867's peaceful end, Catherine to 1872, cradling great-grandchildren.
Samuel's enterprise flourished, ownership attained. Eliza reached 63, departing in 1895's serene slumber, natural, irrevocable.
Howell's records, bequeathed 1881, slumbered in archives until 1923's rediscovery. Publication stirred brief medical fervor, then faded, a curiosity unexplained.
Modern lenses offer hypotheses, profound catalepsy, locked-in mimics, bradycardia extremes deceiving diagnostics.
Yet gaps persist, decay's onset reversed, coffins endurance, awareness in suspension. No theory encompasses fully, prolonged limbo, auditory echoes pulling return, maternal instinct as resurrection's catalyst.
Records endure, notes meticulous, certificates filed, press clippings yellowed, testimonies corroborated.
3 deaths, 3 returns witnessed, documented. Was it physiology's enigma? Divine interventions indicting era's sins, slavery's abomination, hypocrisy's rot, through a black woman's resurrection symbolizing unbreakable spirit, foreshadowing emancipation's dawn? Or supernatural veil thinned, grace manifesting in defiance of mortality? This saga illuminates boundaries' fragility, science's frontiers, faith's depths, love's transcendence over grave.
In our enlightened age, mysteries persist, challenging materialism, inviting wonder at existence's thresholds.
What lingers in your soul? Medical marvel, spiritual thunder, or blend? Ponder the unseen forces. Share thoughts below, beliefs, theories. For more enigmas blurring life and eternity, subscribe, notify, disseminate. Until next veil lift.